Hey guys, it's your boy Jay, and this is Football Talk. And in this one, I am back with another reaction video. In today's video, I will be reacting to first huge update for college football 25. Ooh, I wonder what's in this big update. It says first big update, well, huge update. So I'm expecting some good stuff, and it's a pretty long one. It's about 14-minute long video. So without further ado, though, let's jump right into it. Also, captions will be on for this one. Just make sure it's on. Yo, captions will be on for this as well.
The first big title update for college football 25 is here, and this one is pretty massive. It's way bigger than I was expecting. They've added a ton of new stuff to the game, they fixed issues with all of the modes and with gameplay as well. And anything that they didn't address in this update will likely be in the next one, but it looks like they addressed almost everything. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon on, because there's going to be a ton more updates to this game all year long where they're going to add new content, and you don't want to miss out on that. So first we'll start with gameplay, and then we'll move on to the other modes. So the first thing in the title update notes here says they included 8 new shotgun formations to a total of 35 teams. So they're already adding new plays and formations, which I love to see. They added the bunch quads open, known as the diamond quads, to the Texas Tech and Western Michigan playbook. They added Deuce Twins over to Buffalo and Toledo. They added Slot F Wing to NC State and Liberty. They also added the Split Pro Far to NC State and Liberty as well. They added the Split Pro Near to NC State. They added the Tight Y Off Flex to Florida. The Wing Halfback Weak Close to Indiana and Minnesota. And the Wing Slot over to Texas A&M and Kansas State.
Whoa.
Now they're starting off the gameplay fixes with a banger right here. They did tuning and logic enhancements to pursuit angles. They introduced new behavior that further differentiates players with high pursuit ratings versus lower pursuit ratings. And they also said we will monitor feedback on how this change impacts gameplay, and based on the results could make further adjustments in a future title update. If there was one thing about gameplay that I thought needed to be fixed the most, it was pursuit angles. I'm not expecting it to be perfect. I'm sure they're going to still have some issues, but the good players should at least have way better pursuit angles than they have, and hopefully now that'll be addressed. Moving on here, they reduced the frequency of broken tackles from trailing defenders, which is great. That was starting to get a little annoying. They fixed various instances of rare broken play bugs. They fixed issues where certain formations had offensive players aligned too wide when on the near or far hash. They fixed an issue where you could not use the 4-2-5 or 3-3-5 formations in a custom playbook. They fixed an issue where single back formations would be assigned the wrong name when creating a custom playbook. They fixed an issue where spiking the ball in online modes was not working as part of the turbo tempo system. They also fixed an issue so a speed option running back will follow the QB longer. That's a really big one too. I've started to see that happen more often, and that one's pretty frustrating. They adjusted some AI QB behaviors on shot plays to throw more lob throws versus bullet passes. They also adjusted their behavior to be less aggressive based on awareness rating, and they also adjusted the AI offensive line behavior, resulting in less illegal man downfield penalties during RPO style plays. They adjusted the DB's ability to more effectively shed blocks on the perimeter. I'm guessing maybe this is to address some of the jet touch passes. They increased the speed penalty for running out of stamina during a play. They also said that QB scrambles behind the line of scrimmage will lose stamina at a faster rate. I think that is a pretty good fix. They also fixed an exploit where players would leave a QB contained player unblocked and run around them. So basically people would just blitz the contains.
I'm not gonna lie to you, because I play against the computer so much, these 3 up here are like the biggest change, in my opinion, for if you're just playing against the CPU. Like the lob throws, the offensive line. This right here, I did not even know this was a thing. Like, well, of course I know it's a thing, but I didn't know that it was like this bad, like the illegal man downfield thing.
They also added a dev note here that says we will make further improvements to QB contain in a future title update. They increased the reward players receive for shading inside or outside correctly in man coverage versus passing routes. That's a good fix, nice little buff to the defense. They adjusted false start chances when you make pre-play adjustments late in the play clock. Love that as well, because that was getting annoying. They fixed an issue where run-fit defenders were not responding as effectively to Wildcat run plays, so a little bit of a nerf to the Wildcat there. Okay. They also made a further adjustment to the Wildcat unbalanced motion zone play, so it's probably not going to be as powerful anymore. They reduced the effectiveness of multiple laterals in a single play, adjusted the thresholds required to receive the most effective juke and spin moves. They adjusted the press animations to be more of an effective counter to the takeoff ability. That's another pretty important change. They also updated pass protection mechanic to only include the running back in the protection if they are already on a block or block and release assignment. So it won't take the running back off the route if you adjust your line, which is a good fix. They also made some very important ability updates. They updated the coloring of the platinum tier abilities to further distinct the look versus silver abilities. Kind of a small thing, but it was definitely hard to tell. But here's the big one. They rebalanced the gold and platinum tiers of the juke and spin abilities like 360 and sidestep. Two of the most OP abilities in the game, especially the 360. So I'm curious to see how much worse they are than before, because before they were just insane. They also rebalanced the platinum tier of the extender ability, which includes not firing on QB design run plays, and they slightly rebalanced the effectiveness of the gold and platinum tiers of the quick jump ability. Additionally, we made adjustments to the tier levels found on the Texas front seven. So we know the quick jump ability on defense was a little OP, especially with Texas because they have so many of them. So it looks like quick jump won't be as effective as
this. Let me make sure this ain't my. This is not me. Looks like the video is probably out of sync or something like that.
It was before. Now, really quickly before we continue, I do want to mention that we are still sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. If you like sports on the Dynasty mode, I know a lot of you are here for the Dynasty mode fixes, so let's go over them. They fixed an issue where players were unable to have more than 20 created coaches at a time in an online Dynasty league. Great fix. Various fixes around score summaries and box scores. Various fixes for news stories. They introduced a new playoff bracket screen as well, so we'll have to see what that looks like. They updated the Texas-Oklahoma rivalry data. And here's a funny one. It says they discovered that the FCS teams were secretly using professional players and passing them off as collegiate players, gave them sanctions, and ensured that they are now using properly rated players. Dev note, for this change to go into effect, you will need to create a new dynasty. So this is one of those rare few things where it can't update to an existing dynasty. But basically what they're saying here is, for some reason in the Super Sim, the FCS teams were winning way too many games and they were beating powerhouses pretty often, so that should no longer happen. Moving on here, they said that they fixed an issue where the wear and tear did not recover for FCS teams, resulting in a high number of FCS team injuries during gameplay. They reduced dynamic attendance penalties for playing FCS teams. They increased dynamic attendance in rivalry games. They retuned the toughest places to play formula to reduce the impact that large stadiums have on toughest places to play, and increase the value of filling the stadium and winning games at home historically. They reduced the impact of raw crowd size, increased the impact of historical win rate, and increased the impact of attendance rate. They updated the right-hand panel and stadium
before he continues, how do y'all guys feel about the wear and tear system? I've seen, to be honest with you, I've seen a very positive thing about the wear and tear system. Like, I've seen here and there some people, may not like it because they, they're not, they just want to play the game. But overall, I've seen a lot of positivity around it, and that's great to, it's great to see.
Atmosphere grade on my school screen to accurately reflect the toughest places to play at all times. They increased the accumulation of pride stickers, particularly for defensive players and offensive linemen. They reduced the chance to transfer penalty for players rated below 90 overall. They also updated coach talents on Wyoming's offensive coordinator. For this change to take effect, you will need to create a new dynasty. They also made some defensive scheme and playbook updates for the following team. This is another thing that you will have to create a new dynasty in order for this to take effect, but up on the screen here are all of the teams that now have their updated defensive schemes and playbooks. Moving on here, it says updating your coach's playbook in the schemes and playbook screen will now update your team's scheme and should be reflected in team needs. They fixed an issue where offensive linemen would appear in preseason Heisman Watch in future seasons. Definitely saw that happen a few times. They also updated the Heisman Watch logic to reduce the value of receiving touchdowns, and I think they're doing this because there were just far too many receivers sometimes appearing in the Heisman Watch, where it's normally mostly dominated by quarterbacks, but in the game it was showing a lot of wide receivers, and that's because it was overvaluing receiving touchdowns a little too much. Now let's move on to the recruiting portion here, because there are some important fixes here. They started this with a note that said, our primary goal for this update were to remove most of the recruiting strategies that were discovered during early access and to smooth out the pain points our players were reporting. Recruiting is a delicate balance, and we want to try to make things as realistic as possible while also allowing players to live out their football fantasies. And they said with that in mind, they decided to introduce additional recruiting logic and balance changes. So with that, they fixed an issue where teams were pursuing too many quarterbacks in high school recruiting. They reduced the number of unrecruited 4 and 5 stars early in the season. That's a pretty big change. They increased the number of players that the AI will pursue at one time, and they added a note here here that said, the above changes strive to decrease the number of players that go unrecruited until late into the cycle, while also slightly reducing how aggressive the AI could be with those recruits once they start to recruit them. Our goal is to deliver a fun but balanced recruiting experience that feels rewarding to all players. We will monitor the impacts these changes have on overall recruiting experience and continue to adjust as needed. Now we're going to move on to the recruiting visits. It said they fixed an issue where you cannot schedule visits for recruits in certain situations. One of the biggest bugs in Dynasty. Glad that's fixed because that was super annoying. They also fixed an issue where a visit remains scheduled even if a recruit was removed from a board. They fixed an issue where they allowed the number of visits scheduled for a week to exceed 4. They also tuned some visit influence effects, so they removed the initial influence when scheduling a visit. They increased disparity between winning and losing a game during a visit. They tuned the logic for game stakes to better account for ranked teams, and they increased the penalty for choosing a visit activity that the team does not have a high grade in or the player is not interested in. They also made some changes in Super Sim. It says they increased handoff rates for simulated RPOs to increase the number of running plays across the country, especially for teams with a lot of RPOs in their playbook. They also made various tuning fixes to increase the gap between good and bad teams/players. It says we are going to continue to monitor the simulation results to ensure that teams and players are performing within expected ranges, including reducing frequency of upsets based on preseason projections and expected win totals. They also made some changes to the polls. It says they increased the loss penalty for schools with more than one loss. They increased the weighing of conference prestige in poll calculation. They reduced variance of college football playoff logic versus media/coaches. And it says, as with other systems mentioned above, we will continue to monitor the poll system to ensure that it strikes a balance between realism and reward for player success. Custom conferences/custom schedules. It says we will continue to monitor feedback about custom conferences and scheduling. Based on this feedback, we plan to continue making adjustments in future title updates. They fixed an issue in conference rules where divisions were changed to off, even if those divisions were previously turned on. They fixed an issue where the independence tab disappeared when removing all teams from independence. And it says this also fixes issues with tabs to the right of independence having incorrect or missing data. They address UI issues around the conference title game for the Conference USA and Pac-12. They address UI issues around the Dynasty Team Select UI appropriately respecting custom conference moves, and they updated text in the team header on the custom schedule screen. So that's all for Dynasty right there, but man, that was kind of a mouthful. That's a good amount of fixes there. I'm sure there's still a couple more they need to work on, but they nailed most of them as long as they work properly now. Moving on to Road to Glory, there's a number of fixes here as well, which you will have up on the screen right here. They added an additional scenario and NIL content. They fixed rare issues where you'd get a scenario reward screen that did not align with your received bonuses. They fixed an issue where users were getting skill points maxed out after completing a practice. That one's kind of funny. People were just getting 99 overalls off rip. They fixed a crash issue when quitting
I know it was so many people abusing this right here. I can already tell you it was a lot. And when they update, it's gonna be a lot of people pissed about
position battle. They reworked wear and tear UI to show position appropriate ratings impacts. They fixed an issue where you cannot equip a mental ability during the Road to Glory player creation flow if you enter a settings menu during creation. They fixed an issue where meter mental progress is not tracked during bye weeks. They fixed an issue where it is impossible to—
Alright, sorry about that, guys. A weather alert, because it's raining and stuff outside.
to lose coach trust once you reach max coach trust. They fixed a UI issue related to the display of coach trust when a user is close to max coach trust. They fixed an issue where you cannot upgrade your player during bye weeks. Fixed a UI issue related to the display of weekly energy in the meter screen. Fixed issues with mental goals not tracking correctly or reaching platinum correctly. They also fixed UI issues around text messages. They fixed an issue where backing out of the team selection step in Road to Glory creation can soft lock the mode. And they fixed an issue where a player can continue to work on academics after graduating early. They also made some presentation updates. They added new uniform pieces for Baylor, Oregon, Iowa State, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Bowling Green, Northwestern, UTEP, Boise State, New Mexico State, Appalachian State, Texas State, Louisiana, New Mexico, and South Alabama. That's a bunch of new uniforms.
What? Why do college teams have this many damn uniforms? You don't even see half of them. I remember when I reacted to he was showing off all the uniforms of every college football team. Bruh, at some point in time, I felt like I was just repeating myself just watching them. It felt like I was, to be honest with you, in the middle of it, I thought I was watching the same team over and over again. And they
added to the game. They said that they were going to do this, so not really too surprising, but I didn't think it would come in the first update. Hopefully we get more throughout the year, which I think is the plan. They also adjusted uniform pieces for the 2024 season for teams like TCU, Arkansas, Missouri, and Baylor. They also made various improvements to teams' uniform pieces for authenticity, so maybe there was like a few incorrect uniforms, so they probably cleaned that up. They also made updates to the following stadiums: the Holiday Bowl, Texas State, Kansas, Kennesaw State, Oklahoma State, Wake Forest, UL Monroe, and Nebraska. I know there were some inaccuracies with certain stadiums. I know Texas State was one of the main ones, so I'm guessing they have addressed those issues now. They also fixed an issue where the USC mascot would disappear during the opening ceremony, fixed an issue where the incorrect mascot would appear during different situations. Definitely saw that a few times. And they restored the opening chants for Penn State, FSU, and Tennessee on the Xbox Series S. That was an audible bug where you couldn't hear their chants. That should now be fixed. And they also made a tweak to the Road to the College Football Playoff mode. They did tier rebalancing and reconstruction, and they changed the format from 3 tiers to 5 tiers. So that's a pretty interesting change for those who play the mode. Let me know what you think about the title update, and make sure to check out this video here on the screen where I show you.
Man, oh man, he was not joking when he said a huge update. Cause damn, be honest with you, a lot of it, I'm not, I don't really get into the weeds and stuff of certain modes, but it seems positive in my opinion. But I don't play those, so for the people that do play modes like really get into the nitty gritty, let me know if these are updates that you was waiting for, or what you think what you think the updates should bring next time. But that's gonna do it for me, guys. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this reaction. Love you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.